If I wanted to edit my own movie, could you get me all the raw footage?
Sure, I'm sure that's no problem.
Well, I would definitely get fired if they found out.
Then I could do my cut of it and post it
Oh.
online.
And then you could prove your worth as an editor.
Right.
See, this gives you a good idea of Wally's level of ethics.
Who cares about ethics in the movie industry?
It's time for another episode of Charbroiled Chats.
Wow, not even close.
One more time?
No, that's fine. I can find it.
See, he's a professional. He's in the business, so to him, this looks so cheesy.
Matt makes trailers, and not the kind that actors live in on set.
RVs.
Video, film, trailers.
Movie trailers, yep.
Okay.
That's so cool.
And TV spots, so commercials.
Movies or commercial? Just
No, yeah, commercials for movies. So it's, if we work on a film, we do the whole campaign. So I might start with a teaser if it's a big movie. That's sort of evolved now in our business. It's like, oh, we're going to start with a teaser. And then it ends up feeling like just a trailer one, where it's like still just feels like a regular trailer. And then they cut the quote unquote trailer and it's just like the trailer two. It's like they end up doing two trailers for the movie. But after the trailers are done, then you do the TV campaign. Mm-hmm. They might order a dozen TV commercials, 30-second spots that run on TV, 15-second spots. That's kind of the bulk of the campaign for a movie.
So a teaser and two trailers is the standard operating.
I mean, it varies. It just, if it's not a big budget, if they don't have a big budget on a movie, they might just do one trailer. Mm-hmm. A theatrical trailer that you would see in a theater. Those are 2.5 minutes long.
It has to hit exactly 2.5 minutes?
It can't go over. It definitely can't go over 2.5. And generally, they're going to want to not go under. Before we finish a trailer, like, we're usually longer than 2:30, 2.5. Okay. And you end up having to trim it down to get it to time. That's like a term used in our business. Is it to time? Is the cut to time? Get it to time. Right. That's used on trailers. That's used on TV spots. Oh, no, this TV spot is 32 seconds. All right, well, we got to get it to time. Okay. We got to get it to 30. It's a hard out.
And trailers have become sort of a thing in themselves. They have a premiere for a trailer.
Yeah, they're very popular.
Yeah.
You work for a company that does just trailers, so you're not working for a studio.
Mm-mm.
So your company could be Trailers R Us, and that's all you do.
Yeah, well, I work for they're called trailer houses. They're mostly based in LA.
And it's not what it sounds like. It's not a trailer that you live in like a house. No.
You just have to be really concrete for Wally. Just make sure you're very concrete for him.
It's a big office space. There's probably 20 edit bays. And I couldn't even tell you how many companies there are doing this. There's a lot.
You're working at home right now?
Yeah, I work remotely now.
Okay, so you don't have like equipment in your house. You're like logging into a VPN or something like that gives you access to that kind of computer power. Okay.
Yes, I actually work from a laptop now. It's fast. These laptops are fast enough. I use Premiere. Mm-hmm. Premiere is the software. For a long time, I used Final Cut. Mm-hmm. We just switched over to Premiere in the last 18 months.
Is Premiere Adobe?
Mm-hmm. We were like the last company to still be on Final Cut. But they're pretty similar.
And the results don't matter. I mean, the results are the same, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So can you roughly explain what you do, the process on a typical trailer?
Yeah. Okay. Our company, like, we have a team of editors and then we have a team of producers. The producers are sort of the contacts with the clients on the studio side. So they're the ones that have the relationships generally. So the producer might say, oh, so-and-so, this client from Paramount reached out. They're going to send us this comedy. It's coming out next summer. We got to cut a trailer. It's due in 2 weeks. They want to see a cut. They're sending it over today. So we'll get the movie in. We'll load it in. Sometimes if we start early enough, we're working off of dailies. We don't even have a cut of the movie.
Right.
That which is kind of a pain because like you might like get the script.
Oh.
And then like we have like assistant editors, so they might start cutting scenes together. So I've done jobs like that where it's like a rush and you're like working off of dailies and it's just like very chaotic.
And with dailies, you wouldn't exactly know what's going to make it into the film, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, of course not.
Is that why sometimes you see stuff in the trailer that you're like, that never showed up in the movie?
Yeah. Or we get we'll get the first cut of a movie and we'll work off of that, and then the movie gets cut down and it wasn't even used from dailies. It used to be in the movie. They just took it out.
Yeah, you might be like, wow, I thought Christian Bale was in this movie. He's not in there.
That doesn't happen like too often, something like where they take an entire character out, but there might be scenes that are no longer in the movie, or I mean, if you're really observant, it's like the takes might have changed. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
It would take an impressive eye to notice something like that. But
you know that there's nerds out there probably.
Oh yeah.
Looking for it.
If it's a big movie that people are devoted to, yeah, they would notice something like that. They'll notice everything.
Sure.
But for example, I was an assistant editor. Do you guys remember the movie Step Brothers with Will Ferrell?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So that came out. I was an assistant editor at that time. So I was cutting scenes together for that movie. But that movie famously had like might have been 4-hour cut.
Oh, really?
The movie itself was 4 hours long, first cut.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the way they shoot, like the way Adam McKay, the director, shoots his movies, he'll just let them, like, these scenes just go forever. Because he'll be behind the camera, feeding them lines and ideas, and they're just kind of riffing.
They'll be improvising, and how fun.
So, and he just lets it go, and then he included it in the rough cut. And I mean, that rough cut was hilarious because so much of that, I mean, the movie ended up pretty good anyway, but they took out so much funny stuff because it just would have gone on forever.
That's a shame.
Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I used to have a copy of it because we used to just like burn DVDs of everything we had. We can't do that anymore. So I probably do have it somewhere lying around. Would be kind of cool.
And the lawsuits that would follow.
I wouldn't put it online.
Do you decide what's going to go in the trailer, or do they have suggestions about what's going to go in the trailer?
Well,
because that would seem like a real point of contention sometimes, right?
I mean, that's everything. It's like ultimately we work for them, so. The creative on the studio side and whoever, it depends on the movie and who's ultimately in charge. Sometimes a director will get final say on a trailer.
Oh.
If they're have enough pull, like I'm sure Christopher Nolan is getting final say on every single frame of his trailers.
That's intimidating. I would think, like you're working on like a David Lynch movie and you're like, oh my God, David Lynch is going to see this.
Every movie's different, but directors generally aren't getting involved until later on in the process. They're not coming in and checking out the cut the first week you're working on it. You're pretty far along before they see anything, generally.
Right.
One producer, and then how many editors?
Most of the time, it would be like when you start out, you're going to have one editor cutting the trailer. In an ideal scenario, you watch the movie once, then we do a breakdown of the movie where I go in and I will like organize it within Premiere. Like I mark all the interesting shots. Here's some dialogue lines that could help me tell the story of the movie. These are just like story-based dialogue lines. Like these can forward or help me craft the story. Because that's a big thing. The types I usually work on comedies or, romantic comedies or stuff where it's like, I need to tell the story of the movie. This isn't like a horror trailer or an action trailer where it's like, a little bit of story, but like you just want to make it look cool and impressive.
Well, I mean, that's true. There have been trailers where I'm like, I have no idea what this movie is about.
Right.
Or they're the ones where you say, that was the movie.
Yeah.
That ends up happening a lot, where by the end of the process, we're like, well, we just told the whole movie, but if this is what they want to do, okay.
Yeah.
Is that pressure from the studio? They want to make sure that there's no loose ends and everybody understands?
It's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, they usually get final say. I mean, we don't get final say on a trailer. We do it, and then it's they have the authority on what it's going to end up looking like. I mean, they're paying us to do the job.
But it sounds like you're writing the trailer. There's no writer in the process, right?
Right.
Well, we do have a copywriter.
But the construction of the trailer is on the fly, sort of.
They might give us like general notes, before on point, or don't give away this. Like we can't show this person because this is like that's a reveal for the movie. We can't show, or we're not allowed to show this scene, whatever, stuff like that. Or just if the movie's problematic, like it's just they're like, we're gonna have a hard time selling this. Sometimes we'll cheat the story of the movie in a trailer a little bit.
What does that mean?
Like it's just like they don't think the actual movie and the story being told is gonna get people to go see it. So it's like, how do we actually just craft this so it's like maybe like not telling the whole real story of this movie. Tough. Like how do we make it seem a little more appealing?
Right.
I mean that we do that a lot.
Yeah.
Where we're just cheating stuff. We're not showing anything that's not in the movie, but you're
embellishing.
And we'll do ADR lines where like we'll write dialogue and then like actors will later on go into a sound booth and record lines.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sometimes that we'll just do that to help tell the story in a concise manner, where it's like we just don't have really clear, concise dialogue in this movie that's doing what we needed to do. Like if in a world we'll say you do that exercise where it's like, in a world where we could have the actors say anything we needed them to say, what would be the way to do it so we could get the story across in 30 seconds? Like, and then we write it, and then we'll go temp it. Somebody will go in the office, temp it in the sound booth. So we'll just have, it won't be the actor, it'll be our voice, but and then we'll show it to the client, and they'll say, if they think it works, they'll say, all right, well, we'll see down the road if we can get the actor to read it, because then it sort of solves our storytelling issue.
You just said in a world where, is that part of your vocabulary now?
Nobody says that anymore. It's funny.
10 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Over the years since I've started, trailers and movie marketing has become less reliant on narration, like that voiceover work, those that copy voiceover, and it's much more just reading graphics that slam on. That you'll get a little bit of copy that way, and it's like, it just, to a lot of people, the narrated voiceover feels old-fashioned.
For sure.
It's still helpful, especially still in TV, when you got to tell the story in it's a 30-second spot, so you've only got a very little real estate to tell the story. It's like having a narrator say what the movie is helpful in TV. I don't see it very much in theatrical full-length 2.5 minute trailers anymore.
Like I'm wondering, because the franchise movies are just so huge now, and people are anxiously awaiting the next chapter and all of that. I wonder if that has driven changes in trailers too. Do you know what I mean? Because the trailers, well, like you say, they premiere the trailers now, and people are anxiously just waiting for a trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Marvel movies.
I don't really work on those movies. I don't have a desire to work on those movies.
Yeah.
They're such a pain in the ass.
In what way? I'm just curious.
And every single way you can imagine.
Okay.
It's like the amount of people that are going to be involved in one of those trailers, from just the studio side, it's probably like 10 people that have to approve it.
Wow.
They're going to be in meetings talking about it and ripping apart your cut every day. You're going to be working around the clock at all hours for their next meeting. They're always in meetings. Like they're just always in creative meetings.
For every big movie, or you're talking about like Marvel, or?
I mean, the bigger the movie, the likely the harder it's going to be to work on it. But especially these big Marvel movies.
Right.
And then like creatively, and I don't know if you guys have picked up on this, but big thing now is like they'll take an old song and like modernize it and remix it. And it was like cool the first time they did it, and now they want it done on every movie. Right. And I'm just like, I roll my eyes at it. I'm like, are we really going to do this again? Yeah. Like we're just going to take an old song and like and remix it.
And that song doesn't appear in the movie. It's just for the trailer.
Or it depends. Okay. Sometimes it will. Sometimes we'll see, you'll see a song in the movie and think, oh, that could work for the trailer. And then a lot of times, the song you end up using on a trailer is not in the movie. Or they might see it and put it in the movie.
Yeah, I just saw that in the Ryan Reynolds Fall, what is it, Free Guy?
Right.
Some song that basically carried the trailer.
That's like the thing now that everybody's doing. Like Iron Man used, was it Black Sabbath in the first one?
Yeah.
They didn't really remix it. Then they did AC/DC.
AC/DC's all over the place. They're like in,
of course, I mean,
gazillion movies.
The other thing too is like classic rock just usually works well on a big movie, and like there is no music made like that today, so you just end up going back to like the standards. We have a guy in-house who can do these thing called overlays on the track, where he'll like beef up the sound of the song. He'll give you a track with bigger drums, bigger hits, and you just kind of can lay it into the regular track, and it makes it sound like beefier. Because a lot of these old recordings like don't have the production value that you really need. So he just goes in and then it's, he works in-house. It doesn't cost anything. I mean, other than what we're paying him. And
when you get the rights to a song, you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So the other thing, if you're going to finish if your trailer is the one they're picking, it's going to finish, then they have to go and clear all the music in the cut. That includes the songs, and you're usually, if it's a full trailer, you're using 2 or 3 songs in a trailer. It's rarely, if it's a teaser, you might use one song through the whole piece. But anyway, you have to pay for those. So you're paying the record label, the artist, and then you're paying for all the sound effects that you've got in the cut. And if these trailers have hundreds and hundreds of sound effects in them, whooshes and slam downs and rises, and I mean, it's stuff you hear but you're not even aware that you're hearing. But it makes
you might pay for the sound of a door to slam.
There's some stuff that's like library that's free,
right,
that you don't, or it doesn't cost much at all. And then there's stuff that's expensive, like one sound effect could be a few $1,000s.
Right.
So a thing is, like, I just finished, in the process of finishing a trailer for Netflix. It's a romantic comedy. Their budget's probably not big. I had to go in and replace they marked 10 sound effects that they just didn't want to pay that much for. So I went in and swapped them out with either free or cheaper sound effects so they could save some money that way.
Wouldn't you think every sound effect would have been done already in the past 100 years and be on file somewhere?
Yeah, but you still got to pay for it. Somebody made it.
Somebody owns it.
And if they figure out that you didn't pay for it, they'll come find you.
Right. Sure.
That was my whoopee cushion you used in that.
Yeah. No, I mean, this guy Etol, I think Robert Etol, he has a whole library, and everyone uses his swishes, and he makes money on every single thing that finishes.
Yeah. I'm sorry I missed that one.
I know.
I saw the trailer for West Side Story.
Yeah.
And the main character there sings for 8 seconds or something, and then the 20th century logo comes up, and when that comes up, it goes whoo.
Yeah.
And I thought, why? And yet it makes sense in our language of trailers.
It would probably feel weird if there was nothing there.
Yeah. Or music. You couldn't put other music there. So
I'd have to see it.
Yeah. Right.
So back to the process though so we break down the movie. That can take a day. I mean, I could spend a day breaking down a movie if I did a thorough breakdown of it. And if I'm
which you do for everyone.
Well, if I'm starting from scratch on a movie and nothing has been cut from anyone, it's brand new, then yeah, I try to do a thorough one. If I'm coming in, sometimes I'll come in and I'm just doing TV spots, they already have a trailer. So I have that to look at. I have other cuts that have been cut I can look at. You feel all right, they've kind of got the language of this movie has been established. I know what jokes are working. I don't need to figure out everything from scratch. Then I don't need to do quite as thorough of a breakdown. It's kind of been done.
Right. You don't have to go back to square one.
So after that, then it's okay, we might have a meeting with the client on the phone call to kind of get their thoughts on the movie, or they might just say just cut a trailer, you guys do your thing. And then I just, like I'll have that talk with my producer about like tone of the movie. So what are we thinking for music? We have a music supervisor. We actually have a couple people in our music department. They'll do like searches, and then they'll pull songs, put them in folders. It's like, so I don't have to, spend time kind of searching through thousands of songs trying to find songs. I might have an idea depending on the movie. I might immediately think, oh, that song could work. Like it'll work well that way. But by the time I've watched it and I've broken it down, I usually will have somewhat of an idea on where I want to start the trailer. I personally like to start at, like, I cut the trailer from beginning to end in order of, some people will think, oh, I know how I want to end my trailer. So I'm going to just like cut the ending and then I'll go back. I don't usually work that way. Like it's like writing a paper or something. It's like I have to just kind of start. That's just how my brain works. But it can be definitely, in the very beginning before you start cutting, it is similar to like trying to write something and you got the blank page in front of you and you're like, oh man, like I got to start this, but this feels daunting.
Yeah.
And then, you start and it, once you get a little momentum on it, it's like, it gets easier. But a thing I definitely found with experience, it was not something I was good at in the beginning, was like, I might have an idea about something I want to try in the cut, like a moment or a joke, or I think, oh, that could work. And it's like, know when to cut bait when something's not working. I would try, in the beginning, I really thought like I didn't have that ability to just recognize like, yeah, I like that idea, but it's really like,
move on.
It's just not working. It's like I couldn't move on from it. And now I'm better at, much better at like, just knowing kind of instinctively when something's not working, and
you gotta let it go.
Not being attached to it. Just okay, all right. Like save that, it's cut, but like for now that's not going in. Like let's try something else.
That is so true in like almost every artistic endeavor. Like you love this line in your essay or your story, but it's like it doesn't even serve the purpose, so you gotta cut it.
Yeah. Or it's just taking, trailers are so much about rhythm. They have to keep, unless you're doing a teaser where you can really slow it down and you're doing like a scene. It's like some teasers, like I just saw one for the new Adam McKay, what's it called? It's got like Leonardo DiCaprio and
the one about, what is it about? The environment or something? Or they
like meet I just saw a piece where they're meeting. It's like they're in the Oval Office and they're trying to ring the alarm on this asteroid that's coming to Earth. And it's like a comedy. Nobody wants to listen to them. They're just like, but is it?
Oh, I didn't realize it was a comedy.
Mm-hmm. They're like, is it a? So it's 100%. It's 100%. It's 100% hitting Earth. Well, 99.78.
Jeez.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's not 100%, then we're fine, right? So it's just a whole scene. That's the whole piece. It's just this scene. They're just talking. Other than those kinds of pieces, a normal trailer, the way you'd think of a trailer when you see a movie trailer, it's just like you have to have a rhythm to it. Like it's got to keep moving, especially in TV spots too. Like you can't have any dead air unless it's very intentional, like you're trying to stop the cut to a halt for a moment. But generally it's like there's either got to be music up, you're hearing the music, or there's got to be somebody talking, or there's got to be some sound effects. Like it just has to keep moving. The editors that end up getting promoted and actually like being able to do this are, I think, people who get the rhythm of trailer cutting.
Well, all editing is rhythm, right?
Yeah, probably true. I've only really done trailer editing, but I just know like if you can get the rhythm of cutting, like you probably can make this a career.
What goes through your mind when you're working on a trailer for a movie that you think is really
a dog?
Yes.
I've done many of those. Well, generally with those, the client is on the same page. Usually. So it's like they kind of know this movie sucks too.
Yeah.
So everyone's expectations are kind of have been properly
tempered.
Yes. So it's like, look, we all know this isn't great. let's just like make this look as good as we can. Or then you have the conversation of like, well, how do we make this, like, what about this movie can we kind of emphasize that might like make it look better? And sometimes it's just simply like there's nothing we can do. Like we just got to cut a trailer. You got it. It's not going to win an award. Nobody's going to talk about it, but they still have to put a trailer out for it. So you just do it.
The fact that Grace watched the trailer for Adam McKay's new movie and didn't know it was a comedy, is that a bad sign for that trailer?
I did not watch the trailer. I only saw some photos from it.
No, if you saw that scene, there's no way you wouldn't know that it's a comedy.
Well, we don't know that.
So
I was going to ask how many hours in a typical trailer do you put in editing
before we send it, or by the end?
No,
like if we finish
the whole process of the editing part of it
before we present, or when it goes into theaters?
Well, let's say the beginning to end, from a successful.
If we are on it from the very beginning to when a trailer goes into theaters and is done, like mixed and everything, I mean, that could take. It depends on the movie, but that could take months. You could work on a trailer for 4 or 5 months before it goes into theaters.
You could put 500 hours into it.
Sure, if that's the math. It can go on forever.
So in 2.5 minutes, you've put 500 hours.
Wow.
By the end, you don't care. You don't even care.
Right.
If you win, you don't care if you win. If you're just defeated. It's like, I just want this to end. I don't even care at this point. Like, the first couple versions you cut, you feel like it's your trailer. It's like, this is my trailer. And then oftentimes by the end, you're like, this doesn't resemble anything I cut. I'm just along for the ride. This is not my trailer.
With most artistic endeavors, you get to the point where you have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a Frankenstein of a piece.
That's right. Yes, they'll Frankenstein a couple together. So you get the front end of one trailer and the back end of another trailer. Yeah, and then there are times where I sit there and I'm like, I don't even know what we're trying, like what this cut's accomplishing anymore. But like there's so many people involved and so many people at the studio side that have notes and have a say and have approval. And it's like so many cooks in the kitchen sometimes where you're just thinking like, well, of course this thing's a mess. Like there's nobody that has the one vision for what's going on here.
Well, then you have the movies that have so many stars in it. Take like a Marvel movie or whatever. And do you have to think about, okay, Scarlett Johansson has to have this amount of time in the trailer, and do you have to like weigh the timing for each person, kind of, or that doesn't come up?
No, there's no. I can't think of a time where they said like they have to be on screen for X amount. But if it's a big cast, you oftentimes legally, if you like put a card up with their like Robert Downey Jr.'s name is up, well then that triggers 8 other people that their names have to be shown too. Yeah. So then if you're showing their card, you show their face. So it's like they'll end up having to be in the cut. At least you see them in the cut, but it's not. Sometimes they'll say like the studio will say, well, oh, we really like this actor, or like we want to promote them. Like, can't we? Like, they don't have any lines in this movie or in the trailer. Like, can we get them? Can we get them a presence from them? So we'll just have to like shoehorn them in,
right?
Or find a way to fit somebody in that we didn't really like plan on using because it didn't help the trailer. So that kind of stuff will happen occasionally.
I feel like that Knives Out, the Knives Out trailers felt like that to me in a way, like, you know,
that those kinds of movies, they're gonna probably say, even if it's not a legal thing where they have to put them in, they're gonna say this is an ensemble movie, like everybody's got to have a little moment or a line or some sort of presence in the cut. It's just like, because that's the type of movie we're selling.
How did you get into it anyway? How did you find that job?
So when I graduated from Syracuse, at Syracuse, I was in the communications program at Syracuse, and I took some editing classes there, and we had some assignments where we had at least one assignment where I cut a trailer. Kind of a fun exercise where it was like, take a movie, a genre, and do a trailer selling a different genre for that, like, famous movie that everyone's seen.
Oh, that's fun.
So I cut Dumb and Dumber as like a suspense thriller.
Oh, how fun.
Right. So it was fun. So I thought, like, wow, like, I wonder if I could do this as a job. Not that anything I've done since then has been as fun as that.
I would love to see that.
I have no idea. That's got to be somewhere. I have no idea where that is. So after school that summer, I moved to LA, and my sister had been living out there, and she worked at New Line Cinema in PR.
Yeah,
but they had an in-house editor at New Line, so I met him and talked to him for a little while, and then he passed on my resume to these guys, and then they eventually called me and interviewed me and hired me as like a runner / production assistant. So I just started out like
gopher
basic stuff, entry level. I did that for a while, probably like 6 months. Then they put me in the machine room.
Oh wow, that sounds bad.
Like before long, like that company was growing. I got in at a good time because they were growing fast, promoting from within. Every 6 months, it felt like somebody was like getting bumped up from assistant editing to, and I was kind of like at the end of that line because after me, it slowed back down. Like then 2008 happened and things slowed down a lot.
Oh, you've been doing it for that long?
Yeah, I started
and
I became an editor. I was like a junior editor then, but it was around 2008.
Do you aspire to editing anything a little longer than a trailer, like a feature film or something else?
The thing was, I got to the point I had been doing it for like almost 12 years, I guess. It was just like, okay, where like, am I just going to do this for the rest of my career?
Mm-hmm.
There's really nowhere else to go once you're an editor. You could become a producer, or you could like go to the studio side. Some editors become like creative execs at the studios or vice presidents at the studios doing, that side of it. But that side's brutal.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like those people
are mean.
just get abused, and they're working crazy hours, and they're just in meetings all day long getting notes from people, like trying to make everybody happy. And it just never has appealed. It's never appealed to me to be on that side.
I mean, there are editors who are as respected as directors and so on.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if I honestly, I don't even know how to make the transition into feature editing if I even wanted to do that. I mean, trailer editing is fun. Like, it is fun. Even if it's a movie I'm not that interested in, it is fun to figure out how to cut the trailer for it.
Well,
often.
I bet it's maybe like making the transition from acting on stage to acting in film. It's similar, but you've got like there's so many different considerations, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think feature editing is probably a lot different. Not that you couldn't do it or figure it out. I mean, it's still just editing, but it is like a different beast.
You have an editor in your family, didn't you, Baylie?
Oh yeah, yeah. My brother is he was a feature editor for decades, and he got tired of moving around to locations and doing the dailies, and he was like in his 40s, and he had kids in high school, and he said, I'm done with that. So we got a job sort of working part-time at Pixar. And he's been there ever since.
Wow.
And
why aren't we interviewing him?
That's next.
Yeah.
I mean, not instead of Matt, but I mean, why isn't he on the list?
In addition.
Yeah.
But like Matt, Nick started out doing that kind of grunt work for ABC Sports, and then he just gradually moved to one office to the next and one job to the next, and it was a long progression, but But he's now 68.
Wow.
He's still working at Pixar.
He's probably one of the few there, right?
Well, he's one of the few older guys.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And he said the hardest thing was going from tape, and doing
digital
and doing dailies. And then he learned the digital pretty quickly. But then he said in animation, you can edit forever. You can do another take. Whereas in feature films, you get that. You have what you have. The actors have gone on to something else.
Yep.
So he said it can be really tiring and very long. So
I could see that. I've worked on a few animated movies, and it is a little different because you can kind of just make stuff up,
right,
and then they'll just
draw it for you.
Like they can just Yeah, you just
Go
put a
draw
line.
that.
Or it's like you just make up a line, kind of like what I mentioned before, and then you put it in any shot, and
Oh, right.
you can't really tell what the character's actually saying. I mean,
and do you love editing?
Yeah, I mean when it's
the process.
When I'm able to edit, it's like when you start on something and you're just kind of doing what you want to do, then yeah, it's fun. Then it's like the whole business is taxing and not as fun a lot of the time. But the editing itself is fun.
That would have been my dream job.
Really?
When I find out I couldn't race in the Indy 500, I wanted to be an editor. And I love editing. Sometimes I just edit now for no reason. I'll take stuff off YouTube and edit it.
Yeah, you probably would have been good at this.
Well, the retreat videos are always fun to edit with you.
Yeah, right. I forgot about those. How could I have forgotten about those?
I'll tell you an old-time editing story going way back.
Here we go.
There you go.
I worked in a TV station where they showed movies like this is the 70s. One of my jobs was when they broke, which they broke all the time because TV stations had old, worn-out prints. I had to splice them back together. One time I took Citizen Kane and I was going to re-edit it and not
Oh my God.
And I started and made a few things. I was going to put the sled up front.
Right, Rosebud.
Yeah, just ruin it out of pure spite.
But I never got that far. But I did think about that. I thought that would be a fun thing. Re-edit all the movies in their library.
See if anyone noticed.
Yeah, I enjoy like putting music to a cut a lot and finding songs that really work well with the movie. That's like really fun to just like cut to music. It's
like the third. What do they say? There's casting, there's shooting, and then there's editing, and each one of those, writing, I suppose, but each one of those stages is you can completely remake a movie.
Right.
I mean, it's funny. One time we worked on Daddy's Home. So we worked on Daddy's Home. We did the trailer for that, and then Daddy's Home 2 came out a couple of years later, and they gave that to us again. Mm-hmm. And like we started on it really early, and I'd cut up teaser or a trailer, I don't even remember, but it was basically like we did the open of the movie to open the trailer. Just worked out that way, and we had just the two of us underneath it, and it was like there's like a funny stupid physical comedy but the way we had cut into it and set up that little moment, the director saw it. He like brought me and the producer into the studio with his feature editor and was like, will you guys take a look at the way we cut the open of the movie? Like, I really like the way you guys cut your piece. I want to see if you have any notes, basically for my feature editor. And I was like, this is so awkward.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what am I supposed to say to this guy? Like, he's a feature editor. I'm not. I'm going to
stand over his shoulder and tell him what to do. Like, I was like, it looks great. Like, well,
yeah, that's interesting.
I was like, I don't know what to say right now.
Here's a better idea.
Yeah.
It was cool to be in the room and kind of watch how they did it for a little bit, but I don't remember giving him any notes. I was like, I think it looks great. You guys did a great job.
That was your big moment, Matt.
I was like, what? This is so weird. And like my producer, he's looking at me. He's just kind of like, don't say anything. Like,
Do you have any embarrassing stories about famous people that you can share?
I was going to ask that, Walt.
Even if you left out the name.
Oh, don't do that.
Nothing like too specific. There was a time when I worked on like every Adam Sandler movie.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, right. This one client, this guy, I won't say his name, but he was kind of the point person for all of these projects that went through that studio. Once in a while, we'd be on a fiber, like where I explained, where you're kind of like on a speakerphone and then working on the cut while they're on the other end. And Sandler would be in the room then. And you'd kind of hear him getting frustrated and kind of, being a dick to the client. You'd hear that a little bit, and North Sandler would be like playing guitar in the background and just like generally, like being annoying because I'm trying to cut and like it's loud on the phone. And I'm like, can we get off the phone and we'll call them back? But I do remember one time where we cut this trailer. He'd always want to see the cut, early. Like he always wanted to be like, what do you guys like? What's the cut looking like? Let me look at it. And like, I think he was on vacation. It was around the holidays, I want to say. And he was on vacation in Florida, and it was like the middle of the night. And he called our client and just like ripped him a new one because he hated the cut and was just cursing him out. And so our client called us and was like, oh man, he's like, that was bad. We got to recut it. And then of course, we recut it and he loved it. And one thing I've found, and this is probably true in a lot of things in life, but I try not to present my cut to any of my producers if they're in a bad mood.
I'll just like,
it's like so much about like catching a person at the right moment.
Absolutely.
You're married too, Matt, so that's
right.
That has a lot. Do you like watching movies, or does it, too much about the process?
Oh, no, I still like watching movies. I mean, I don't have time right now to watch a lot of movies outside of work, just because I have 2 little kids. But there's certain things you pick up on now where I can kind of hear when it's a ADR take.
Mm-hmm.
That sound didn't come from the scene itself, that kind of thing. But I mean, working in this industry has not ruined, my enjoyment of movies. I just feel like there's not that many good movies being made.
Right. That's
more ruined my enjoyment of movies than anything.
Yeah, that'll do it.
My husband hates watching movies with me and my family because my father was an editor, my brother's a film editor. We're all these, we parse things a lot. He's like, can't you people just watch a movie a movie
Yeah,
instead
I hear
of,
that all the time.
all the time. It drives him bananas. So I understand.
I'm enjoying it. Just go away.
Right, exactly.
Do you want to explain ADR since we mentioned it?
Oh, sure.
For Grace.
Thank you.
If they need a line read after the fact, like whether they may change the dialogue line to something else, they'll have the actor go into the booth and read the line, and then they'll just cut it as if was shot in the scene. Or if it's like the quality of the sound sucked when they shot it. Sometimes that's what it is. Like,
okay, I gotta go. But my last thing here is I looked up.
I'll send you some notes.
I Googled movie trailers, of course, and I saw for top trailers, the top trailers 1 and 2 for Avengers Endgame.
Are these top viewed trailers?
Like most seen trailers.
That makes sense.
Avengers Infinity War trailer 1 was next. And then the top teaser trailer was for Lion King. There you go.
Wow.
I wonder, that must have been probably the new Lion King.
The new one, the live one. Yeah.
The live one. I mean, they had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Live action, but not.
All right. Okay. I gotta go. Nice to meet you, Matt. Thanks for everything.
Nice meeting you too.
Thank you, Baylie.
All right.
Baylie.
So I don't know if you want to do this or not, but I always like to hear people's, what was the most difficult one you ever worked on? What was your favorite one to work on? What do you think came out best?
Oh, wow.
Did you ever end up crying on one?
Crying? No, God, no. But I definitely had I definitely had moments where I felt like quitting.
Yeah, I bet.
Or just telling the client to fuck off.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, okay, so I don't know if this was the worst, but definitely one I remember. I worked on, you guys remember the Paul Blart movies with Kevin James?
Yeah.
He was a mall cop.
Yeah.
Okay. So I worked on, the first one we didn't work on. There's a Paul Blart 2, and we cut the teaser for that. And that was relatively painless. Then we had to cut the trailer. So the guy we were working with was like, he was actually really good creative. Really good. He ended up going to run another place. But he didn't have time to work on this movie. He just wasn't focused on it, didn't have time. So we weren't getting any real direction. He kind of put his manager, his assistant, it wasn't really his assistant, but she had never really done a campaign on her own or anything. So she was kind of in over her head. And then she would show him the cut when in the 5 minutes he had available. And then he would give her notes, but she didn't know how to translate those notes to us. And it just got messier and messier. They were having us work on weekends to come up with different cuts. And it was just it just became a complete shit show. And I remember at that time thinking this is the worst job I've had to do since I've been here.
Paul Blart. of all things.
Oh, Blart. I know.
So that was one just nightmarish. It's usually just because the studio really doesn't know how to sell the movie. That's when things go bad.
If I wanted to edit my own movie, could you get me all the raw footage?
Sure, I'm sure that's no problem.
Well, I would definitely get fired if they found out.
Then I could do my cut of it and post it online.
And then you could prove your worth as an editor.
Right.
See, this gives you a good idea of Wally's level of ethics.
Who cares about ethics in the movie industry?
I've got this screenplay I'm working on. It's the sequel to Moby Dick.
Do you want me to take a look at it?
And it's not, I've mentioned it on several podcasts and it's never gotten any traction.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
It's only a treatment at this point. It's like, at the end of Moby Dick, we don't really know what happened. Ahab, it looks like he's done for, but my idea is that he captures Moby and they bond.
Sure.
And he teaches Moby to retrieve. And so, like, he'll send Moby out and capture a ship and bring it back to him. He becomes like a pirate.
Like a golden retriever.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot more to it than that.
I'll talk to some people. I know some managers in Hollywood that just are friends of mine. I could just.
I'd like Ridley to get it first.
Okay.
What about James Cameron? Seems like it would be a natural for him.
You just give me the order of directors that you'd want to look at it, and we'll just go down the list and see who we can
Ridley,
find.
Spike, Marty, Steve.
You want Spike Lee or Spike Jones?
Could you imagine Spike Lee doing that one? Oh, or Spike Jones.
Well, see, I was thinking Spike Lee. He'd bring a whole different.
That would be an interesting
angle to
take.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
It really would.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay. Well, I guess it's not getting any traction here either.
He sounds, I don't know, Walt. Matt sounds like he's on the case.
Well,
for you.
Matt, thank you.
This is super interesting.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad. I've never had anyone that wanted to know this much about the industry. So
it's fun.
Yeah, and you can do everything in Rochester that you were doing in LA.
Pretty much.
But, yeah.
It's a little slower, just a little, like as far as like uploading cuts onto the server, but it's pretty doable.
Do you think you're missing anything in face-to-face contact, or?
Not really. I mean, you miss like working in an office, but as far as like the creative process, I don't think it's that different.
That's cool.
Being on the phone, talking, or on email. There's just like some higher security projects I won't be able to work on. Like Disney won't let anything off-site.
Really?
Yeah, they've always been very high security.
I just heard who are they talking about? Somebody would only let the script be read in their office. That kind of thing.
Interesting.
That's a Nolan thing, yeah. He's pretty, yeah, I don't think I'll be working on any of his movies either, probably.
That's a good tactic for him because unless you have it in front of you, you can't even say what his movie was about anyway.
That's true.
Oh,
one quick note about working on his movies. We worked on Inception, the TV spots. Mm-hmm. They only gave you like 40 minutes of the movie, and it was completely out of order. So you're literally like, we would just get pieces of the movie out of order, and it was like, this is what you can cut with. You've seen the trailer, like go off of that, and then
no direction on that. You just made up whatever you wanted.
Yeah, so it was like we don't like the story of this movie doesn't matter. Like you're just going to use one or two lines to explain the setup. Just like cut something cool.
Wow.
So it was almost like a fun exercise for an editor, where it was like, here's the rules of this job. Like do something cool. I mean, that's like what every editor would want to hear. It's like just cut something cool.
That seems like it's all of a piece of what he does.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if he does that with every movie or if that was just for that.
I bet for Tenet he did. For God's sake, it's the same thing,
Probably.
Good God.
I just read this morning that the new Bond movie is 163 minutes.
Yay!
I think they could use some editing.
No, no.
Take a good 25 minutes out.
There are some movies I want to go on for 8 hours. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If that went for 8 hours, I would have been totally happy.
I agree. I didn't get bored watching that movie.
Yeah.
It was like I was in a world there, just hanging out.
Another episode of Charbroiled Chats comes to a close. But rest assured, whatever you would like to talk about, we are listening. So go ahead, Tweet us at CharbroilC or email us at charbroiledchats@gmail.com. Of course, we'd love it if you'd head over to iTunes or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts and write a review of Charbroiled Chats. And please, subscribe, like, follow, comment, and most of all, tell all your friends about Charbroiled Chats. See you next time.
I don't think it's animation. I think it's live action.
Wow.
I'd like to see.
Well, I don't think I have any connection to Marty, but I could maybe get it in front of Sandler.
Yeah, can you give him notes?
There's a twist at the end of Act 2 where it turns out it's not Moby Dick that he's bonded with. It's his sister, Moby Jane.
Oh my God.
There you go. I worked on that.
Well, I was thinking that maybe you were going to say that Moby Dick and Ahab had a child together or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Wow, that's really stretching it.
Yeah.
Well, human, that's what you have to do these days, Waltz. That's what you have to do to get the attention of Hollywood. Don't you know that?
I want a more realistic treatment of this.
Stick with your original idea. You're onto something.
Yeah.
Sounds realistic to me.
Yeah, and Queequeg is a big part of it too.
Yeah.